Good morning, guys. Welcome to the show. Listen, glad to have you guys here. Now, the first thing I want to start talking about is, let's get the charts open. Let's take a look. Andreas Antonopoulos. He's talking about the Lightning Network here. And he's talking about the most powerful and unappreciated feature of the Lightning Network. And this is this new feature of the Lightning Network called splicing. And this is what they're working on developing. Now, the Lightning Network right now is like in a beta phase. You know, they're testing it. They're working with it. It's actually up and running, but they're testing it and they're working with it to try to make it so that it's going to really function well. It's going to take time. Now, I want to point out something about all this. An awful lot of people are looking to Bitcoin to be this currency, a currency that's going to be able to pay for a cup of coffee and using the Lightning Network. I don't think that's the direction this is going in. What the Lightning Network, I think, is going to accomplish is to allow Bitcoin to be a little bit more scalable. I don't think Bitcoin is ever going to actually become something you buy a cup of coffee with. I think that where we're actually headed with this is that in the year, probably toward the end of 2019, moving into 2020 and 2021, we're going to go through a period where Bitcoin metamorphosizes, almost like a caterpillar goes into a cocoon, and he metamorphosizes into a butterfly. This is what's going to happen with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is going to go through a massive amounts of institutional money are going to come into it, the space, I believe, and also investors. And Bitcoin is going to grow, but it's going to grow as the center pole or the center foundation for all the other cryptocurrencies. And you see this when you see Bitcoin goes up, and Bitcoin represents more than 50% of the entire cryptocurrency industry. When you see Bitcoin go up, you see everything else go up, all the other coins. What we're going to see is Bitcoin move into a position of being it's going to change from what it is right now, which is what it has been, which is a speculative investment. It's going to move into a position of being a store of value. And it's going to change. It's not going to be a currency. Remember before I was saying that these people are expecting Bitcoin to be a currency? I don't believe it's going to be a currency. It's going to be a store of value. It's going to be a money. It's going to be money in its purest form. But internet money. It's going to start taking the position like gold has. People don't pay for a cup of coffee with gold. How many guys you see go up to a cafe and plunk down pay for a meal and a cup of coffee with a 1 gram of gold? They won't take it, for one thing. And I think this is the same thing that's going to happen with Bitcoin. I think that you're going to find that the value is going to go so high on the stuff that if you go in and try to spend it as actual money, people are going to laugh at you, because the value of Bitcoin is going to always be increasing year on year, every year, until it finally accomplishes its goal of becoming the underpinning for the whole world's financial system, the underpinning of money behind the whole world's financial system. This is a war between Bitcoin and gold. Gold's been there all along. It's underpinned everything. This is why central banks hold it. I think you're going to see Bitcoin is a challenger to that. And right now, Bitcoin is horning in on gold's territory. But it hasn't really accomplished that goal yet. It's moving toward it. So Andreas Antonopoulos here is talking about the Lightning Network and splicing, and he is very sure that once they get this all worked out, to get all the bugs worked out of it, that the Lightning Network is going to enable much more easily transferable Bitcoin from one place to another, basically. And so that's what we see there. Now, we have to ask ourselves, when is this Bitcoin gold rush going to begin? When is Bitcoin going to start to shoot heavenwards? Well, we got a problem standing in the way between Bitcoin and this. And this is what's called a recession. I'm going to tell you what. When the recession hits, and it's coming. We take a look at this article. It says Fed's Powell says no rush to hike rates in a solid but, get his words, slowing economy. And I'm going to tell you what. Well, look at the look on this man's face. You know, this says it all. This says recession's coming. Yes, a recession is coming, and this recession could actually have negative effects on Bitcoin and gold, because Bitcoin, and you're going to start to see more and more as time goes by a reflection of what Bitcoin's doing in gold, and vice versa. Bitcoin is actually on its way to becoming gold. That's what basically it's taken that slaughter, that position. That's what it wants. They're like two sumo wrestlers in a ring right now, and they both have qualities that the other one doesn't have. Like, say you had one sumo wrestler who's super fat, big and heavy, you know, and the other guy is more thinner and light but more agile, you know, and we're going to come up against a battle, Bitcoin against gold. The two of them are battling for the ring. But what's gold got to their advantage? What's gold's advantage? Well, you can hold it. You can hold it right in your hand. You can see it. It's in the real world. It's tangible. It's a tangible, and it possesses all the qualities of Bitcoin. They both possess all of each other's qualities. Bitcoin is mined. Gold is mined. They're both rare. But when we take a look at the rarity factor of Bitcoin, Bitcoin has actually got an edge on gold as far as rarity is concerned, because there's an awful lot of gold in the ground. And if the gold price increases too much, what will happen is because there's basically unlimited set number in the ground of gold, miners will go out and they'll find more. If the gold price goes up too high, they will go out and they'll find some, and they'll bring it to you. You know, but you can't do that with Bitcoin. Bitcoin has a hard limit that you can't break it. And so the miners, they're facing these difficulties like halvings, where they only get half as many coins as they used to get. By the way, Litecoin's coming up for a halving. That's something to consider, guys. Anyway, Litecoin is like Bitcoin, by the way. It's a limited fixed supply, too, except there's 4 times as many. So the halving, you got to consider that factor. You got to consider also, if you're a miner, that the limited supply of Bitcoin gets harder and harder. The difficulty gets harder and harder year on year end to get them. And if the same thing happens with Bitcoin as happened with gold, if Bitcoin goes up too high, gold goes up too high, a whole slew of new miners go out there and find more gold. Basically, that's how it works. But if Bitcoin goes too high, a whole slew of miners come in to the Bitcoin space to mine Bitcoin. It's just going to put the difficulty way up on the mining difficulty and make it much harder to get Bitcoins. So as far as the rarity factor or scarcity factor is concerned, both gold and silver have a rarity or a scarcity factor, and they both are mined, but Bitcoin has the edge on that. And the next thing about Bitcoin is it's fungible, perfectly fungible. See, these are the qualities of money. But gold is perfectly fungible, too. All you need is a scale. But you also need to know the exact how fine the gold is. Whether it's 14 karat, 12 karat, 10 karat, goes all the way up to 24 karat. 9999 pure, you know. But they both have that same factor of fungibility. And also, they're both a good store of value. Store of value is the third aspect of money. It's a very important factor. Bitcoin has it, and so does gold. And so they both imitate each other. But now, gold can be held in the real world as a real tangible asset. You can hold it in your hand. Can't do that with Bitcoin. You can't hold Bitcoin in your hand. But you can hold Bitcoin on the internet. Now, as far as store of value, Bitcoin, you can take it and store it away on a hardware wallet or a paper wallet, you can come back years later and your Bitcoin's still there. Gold, the same thing. You can store it in a vault, store it someplace, come back years later, your gold's still there. So those three factors of money, store of value, fungibility, and also scarcity, they all three have, Bitcoin and gold both share these factors. But Bitcoin has something that gold doesn't have. And it's probably the most important that could give Bitcoin the edge over gold. Probably the most important factor of all. Bitcoin can be transferred halfway around the world. It can go beyond borders and everything else instantaneously. Gold, can't move it. Borders, people will seize it on you. You know, people will steal it on you. The fact is, this factor of the fact that it is in the real world and you can see it, it's in your hand, you can hold it in your hand, is actually a negative factor for gold, not a positive in this modern age. Whereas Bitcoin is an intangible asset. A guy could be traveling across country and he could just have his words in a brain wallet in his head. Remember the 12 words for his wallet? He could memorize them. And where's your Bitcoin? A guy could go across the border with $1 million worth of Bitcoin stored in his head in a brain wallet. You know? You can't do that with gold. If the guy's got $1 million worth of gold in his suitcase, as soon as he hits the border, they're going to open that up and it's not his gold anymore. They're going to steal it. It's as simple as that. So, there's an awful lot of things to consider here, but overall, what fits in better with our modern world? Gold? You guys call it. What fits in better with our modern world? Now, they both share an awful lot of these same factors, the qualities of money, but what fits in better with our modern world? And this is going to give you an indicator of which one's probably going to win in the end, the new technology or the old system of the way things were done for thousands of years. It's basically like comparing the old lamps that they used to have that used to run on oil. You know, people used to buy lamp oil with a modern incandescent LED light bulb. Which one's going to win? The modern technology, the new LED light bulbs, or an old lamp you got to light with a match? You guys decide. Anyway, let's move on here. I've talked enough about that. There's a recession coming, and what I want to show you guys is possibly the best indicator of all. Now, I'm going to explain this chart to you right here. It runs from the year 1950 up until our present time, and these gray bars you see, these are recessions, and you see recessions come at a very regular interval. You can see you never go too much more than a few years, maybe 10 years is a long gap between recessions. And these are recessions, these gray bars. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 gray bar recessions in here on this chart. But the gray line that's squiggling up and down, don't pay any attention to the little red lines or little green lines. Don't even look at those. What we're really interested in is this gray line that's squiggling up and down between the recessions. This is the unemployment rate. And what you're going to notice here is that just before a recession, each and every single time the unemployment rate is at its lowest. In every single recession. And during the recession, the unemployment line shoots heavenwards every single time. Now, look at where the unemployment rate is right now. It's at its lowest point it's been in a long time. And it's, in fact, it's at the low point it is just before a recession. This is one of your strongest indicators. Now, there's another indicator on this chart that's very important. The distance, the spread between recessions. If what you notice here, going back all the way back to 1950, there's a spread of about 10 years between each recession. That's a wide spread, is 10 years between each recession. And what you'll also notice is that oftentimes there's only a 5-year spread between recessions. And there's one recession here that occurs within about a 2-year period to the next recession. That was around 1980. We had a small recession, and then we come out of it, and then we went right back into recession again. In 1980 there. You see 2 recessions right close together. But generally, a long period between recessions might be 12 years. And we see that between 1990 and 2000, we see a long distance between recessions. And we also, 1960 to 1970, we see a long distance between recessions. Now, look at the final recession here. What they call the Great Recession, back in 2008. Until now, we see a long spread, right? That's an indicator that we're overdue. We got a long spread. We're ready. And look at the unemployment rate. It's low. We're ready for a recession. The recession's ready to begin. We got Fed Pal over here saying that we're moving into a slowing economy. A slowing economy is what you get just before you go into recession. So we got this recession to deal with. What effect is it going to have on cryptocurrencies and gold and silver? Okay, listen. I've talked probably long enough. Thank you guys for listening to this particular episode. And we'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye, guys.